let's take a look at what a century of real science has taught us about the Big Bang, so far at least. To understand singularity, let's start with how a black hole is formed. Stars keep in shape because of a balance between heat energy, which forces them to expand, and gravity, which forces them to contract. As a large star uses up the last of its fuel, heat builds up to the point where it explodes. Yes, here we can use the word explode. What remains gives in to gravity and collapses in on itself. As this ball of gas continues to collapse, it becomes so dense and the force of gravity becomes so great that even the atoms get crushed, and you get a neutron star. It's a vicious circle. The more matter is crushed and compressed by gravity, the smaller it gets and the more intense the gravitational field. And the more intense the gravitational field, the more matter is crushed and compressed. If the star is massive enough, this process keeps going until everything gets shrunk to a small point, which is so dense that even light can't overcome gravity and escape. This has a number of effects. Einstein discovered that space and time are part of the same fabric, and that gravity warps both space and time. If we could see that effect in a planet orbiting the Sun, space would look something like this. We'll put it into 2 dimensions to make it easier to visualize. A black hole is so much denser than our Sun that it warps space-time to an extreme degree. Now, scale that up to not just a star, but an entire universe collapsing in on itself. Space is warped to an infinite degree. What about time? Well, Einstein showed that time is also affected by gravity. It slows down the closer it is to massive objects, because the gravitational field is more intense. So in infinitely dense singularity, time would slow infinitely, in other words, to a point where it stops completely. So it's nothing even remotely close to a spinning record made of vinyl. Singularity has no particles. It effectively has no space, because space has been warped into an infinitely small point, and no time. Is that nothing? Well, unless you can get your head around a universe consisting of no space and no time, you can pretty much call it whatever you want. But just reducing all this, which are calculations related to the state of the universe 1 billion trillionth of a second after it started, to popped out of nothing, suggests that you have no clue how to debunk any of the physics, so it's easier to coin a term that a 5-year-old can understand and then have a stab at debunking that.
All right. Good morning, my beauties and bees. It is so good to see you all out there chattering in the live chat. Solid 10-minute opening of with the trailer and everything. So I might have to rebalance things back out. I don't need a whole 10 minutes of opening before the show starts. I usually shoot between 5 and 10. So thanks for sticking with me through that. I usually try to balance out the 2 video clips that I use. This day it didn't work out quite so much, so I hope that wasn't too much of a preamble, that you all enjoyed the elephant activism. I think people do enjoy the elephant activism. The animal activism in general, I think you guys appreciate about the channel here, so I'm going to keep that up. Now, and then, of course, a little slice of science from Potholer about the way that a black hole is made. So, and then expanding that concept universally to give us an indication of what the Big Bang was like. I want to say good morning to everybody out there. It's always lovely to see these beautiful people. We had Sandy in here bright and early, and Al Trucker wasn't far behind. And then we have Ring showing up, and Greg, and Native Atheist, and Jason Jacoby, Captive Desk. We got Sonia. I don't know if it's Sonia or Sonia. I think that's Sonia, actually. Sonia. Sonia Hopeful. It's always good to see you. Good morning, good morning. Yeah, hello everybody. It's great to we're getting started today. I don't want to do too much of this preamble because I don't have a whole heap of time right now, but I do want to give a shout out to Dr. Ben, who had their giveaway last night. It was really fun. Lord Falconis won the giveaway, but we go over there and play trivia, me and Stephanie, and BB and a few other people, overprotected atheists. We go there and play trivia on Friday nights sometimes. They do it most Friday nights. I'm not always there, but um, yeah. So we had a great time last night. I just wanted to give a shout out to that. We play. They played some like trivia games and quiplash stuff, but which I'm usually not big into games, just because of my anxiety, which is really embarrassing. People are always like, "Oh, why don't you go to trivia night with me?" And I'm like, no, because they think, "Oh, you'd be really good at trivia, Bree. You know all this animal stuff," and it's like, yeah, but I don't know. I have like a surface level understanding of everything, but that's about it. I just like to read what the people who actually do have the deep understanding have to say and kind of give my opinions on it. That's what we do here in the Hive. We're always learning and debunking, as the case may be. So, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and just pop right into Cryptic Corner because I'm ready to go with it. It's looking like it's going to be a fun morning. So I will see you guys over there in just a minute. Hello, hello, my beauties and bees, and welcome once again to another episode of Cryptic Corner where we explore the unexplained, the supernatural, the paranormal and hidden, the mysterious, the alien, the accursed, and the forbidden. I am your host, Miss Bumblebee, and I am so thrilled to see everybody out there. So, uh, yeah, today is the day after Groundhog's Day, so we broke free of our time loop. Today is February 3rd. I don't know how many Groundhog Days we lived through. If we got stuck in a time loop like Bill Murray, but the people in today's videos certainly did go into some kind of time warp, and that's what we're going to explore today. It's a double header on Cryptic Corner too. We got two great videos to go over, so I hope you are here for it. Now, time warp stuff has always interested me, to some extent. It has always kind of drawn my attention. So I was always more into the monsters and stuff like that. Like the monster section's what I would read first, right? But the for some reason it's not pulling it up like it did that night when Vandy was here. I'll pull that up. Give me just a moment. But we had these books, right? When I was growing up, that had a whole section about time travel. So today, we're going to look at some of those classic cases of time travel. And the first one we're going to look at, we're going to let our friend Night Terrors present it. Now, I like this guy. He does this whole FBI agent, secret private investigator, case files kind of guy. Does the overalls with the tie, and Yeah. So he's going to tell us about Sir Victor Goddard, a time traveler from World War One. So sit back and relax, and we will see what's on the table.
For an anonymous caller.
Oh, there we go.
It's one thing for an anonymous caller to join a late-night radio show and claim that he is a time traveler. It is another thing altogether for a highly decorated, knighted officer of the British Empire, supported by government documentation, to speak of his flight into the future and his subsequent return. The fascinating true story of Sir Robert Victor Goddard concerns an air marshal who passed through a temporal vortex in the sky.
An air marshal who passed through a temporal vortex in the sky. So, what we're looking at here is this guy is going to jump to the future. Yeah, he's going to jump to the left. And then a step to the right. Put your hands on your hips. Y'all got me doing the time warp now. Let's do the time warp.
The military career of Victor Goddard spanned 41 years of service. He began as a midshipman in the Royal Navy at the start of World War I. By 1915, Goddard had joined the Royal Naval Air Service.
Oh, Ring, it's a character. Let's give it. He's playing the serious, staunch. I doubt very much he's like this in real life. Like maybe he is though. Maybe he is because I think like if you listen to Chills lays it on really thick. At least he has since the Burger King foot lettuce thing blew up. He's played it really close to the hip, right? I don't know if this guy's character, how close it is to his real personality. So.
In the Battle of the Somme, over 3 million men fought, and 1 million of them were either wounded or perished. The battle lasted almost 6 months, and by its end, the Allies had succeeded in advancing their front line by a distance of about 6 miles. The reliability of the biplane was so poor that the odds of suffering mechanical failure was almost as high.
He could almost done like what is this, like World of it is like the battleship game except for the planes or whatever, right? So I mean, he could have done this the whole time even.
As the odds of getting shot down by the enemy. Across the English Channel, in the northernmost corner of France, young Goddard began his air career, flying reconnaissance over the Somme.
It's so weird as an American, I don't think about, like, there's still trenches and mines and all this stuff left over from World War I and World War II and in Europe, right? That we don't have anything like that around here. I mean, I guess if you live in the right area, you might live near a Civil War battlefield or something like that. But I don't know. The Civil War battlefields aren't nearly as grand. I don't know what the word is to describe it. World War II, everybody was racing to make. World War II was like a second industrial revolution, right? It was also the dawn of the atomic age. But World War I, which is what we're talking about here, was also like a little spike in industry as well. We especially in ballistics and munition. That's why trench warfare became a thing. That's why we said goodbye to the cavalry once we saw how they performed in World War I. You know, that was kind of the final straw, at least on a major battlefield arena. That was goodbye to cavalry charges, right? What are you gonna do against high-powered machine guns they basically had at that point.
End of his career, 10 years after the next World War. He had received so many medals from so many nations that there was not enough room for them on a regulation uniform. In 1934, Air Marshal Goddard was relaxing between wars.
What's
He
with
took
this
a day
music?
trip by automobile
Stop!
to visit in Scotland the landing field at Drem, one of those from which he had flown during the Great...
Why does it... Oh, thank you. I had to stop because why is this music so fucking groovy? Ah, damn. I can't stop dancing to it. Man, oh man. Good morning, back. One of those from... Okay, so they're talking to... Okay, I guess I get distracted by the music, so I'm doing my thing, and then I missed the part where he says where they're going. So they said they're going to Drem Airfield, right? So that's in Scotland, and it should be abandoned at this time, right? So let's go find out.
Great War. He knew the airfield was no longer maintained by the military and was curious as to its current suitability. He found the buildings in wretched disrepair. The roof of the officers' mess was falling in. A farmer was using one hangar as a barn for his cattle. Another hangar was used as storage space for bales of hay. The field itself was now crisscrossed with fences of barbed wire to keep grazing sheep separated from grazing cows. The next day, the Air Marshal was flying a Hawker Hart in the same vicinity, while traveling from Edinburgh to Andover, England.
Damn it, I'm getting distracted by the music again. I can't stop. Ooh, it's getting hot up in here when I'm boogieing. Alright, so he found the airfield in the state of disrepair. Okay, so they were using cattle grazing on the airstrips. They were using the hangar as a barn, things like that. But you need to chill out with the freaking banger jam dance club music, buddy, on these videos. Some eerie music maybe would be better. But right now we're at the club, and I want to, with what you got going on with this, I love it. I love your presentation. I do. I don't think that I'm like here to shame you about the cheese on it. You know, I'm a big dork too. I like to do voices and characters and stuff like that. So no shade for that. I love your character. That's why I'm here. But you got to back off on these like rockin' jams, these bangers that you're putting over the top of your voiceovers, cause they make me want to boogie and not pay attention to what you're saying.
He was suddenly enveloped by cloud and heavy rain. Goddard admits to losing control of his plane, plunging 8,000 feet in less than a minute. After regaining control, freeing his aircraft from a death spiral, the fog was nowhere to be seen, and the Earth was bathed in a heavenly sunlight. He expected soon to pass over the airfield at Drem, and he did.
Now, it doesn't talk about him, how he got his bearings or anything, or what his, when he came to, he didn't, we don't have anything about his location or whether he was really over Drem at this point. Just wanted to make that clear. It is, it is just him saying, you know, I expected to be over Drem Air Force. Maybe there is, or Drem Airfield. Maybe there is a record of that, and I'm not aware of it. I did look into it, but there's not. You can find a lot of stuff on Goddard as far as his spiritualist leader and stuff like that. He was very big into that. He's one of the ones that was writing books and stuff, like or had been writing books when I was in my woo stage from childhood, really, because my parents, again, in the 80s, we had all the, because they'd really push these books on TV, right? My parents, they bought them for us. The Mystic Places and monsters and what else do we have? I'm trying to think of the names of the books. The Time Life collection, right? Let me see if I can pull them up. The only one I remember for sure is Mystic Places. Yeah, they got some vintage ones you can buy. I should buy them. I think I should buy them. They're here on Etsy. Here, I'll show you. Look, they got Dreams and Dreamings, Mysterious Lands and People, Eastern, what's that? Mysteries? Oh, Mysteries. That looked like a P. I don't know why. Eastern Mysteries, Secrets of Alchemy, Mind Over Matter, Psychic Powers, Transformation, Time and Space, Ancient Wisdom, and the Secret Sex. Mysterious Creatures, the Psychics, the Mystic Places, the Mystic Years, and Cosmic Connections. It's only $14. It's on Etsy, so I'd be giving it to a small business. I'll think about it. Because this could be content, right? This could be stuff that we go over on the show. And it's got stories like this. This book right here was the one that had this story in it. Where I heard this story. And that was always one of my things. Because he talks about spinning out, losing control in this storm, right? But then he's like, okay, and then it was sunny, and then I flew over the airfield. Did you get your bearings, or did you was getting to the airfield where you were deciding that you were on course, you were in the right location after losing control in the storm? I'm not trying to throw shade at him for this. I just wanted to be clear that if you're gonna make a story like this and present it, having some numbers and stuff, some readings. I don't know, what kind of readings did they use in World War I planes? Did it say what type of plane he was flying? World War I flight navigation. How is it done? Because I think they were still using charts, though, weren't they? They didn't have instruments on board. Yeah, let's see. Here we go. I want to read the whole thing. Yeah, early World War I aircrafts were rudimentary, with open cockpits, rudimentary instruments, and no navigational aid. So he has no navigational aid in this plane. Pilots often used maps and atlases to navigate, and getting lost was common. Pilots also used the technique of pilotage, which involves traveling a certain number of miles in a direction and then returning home by traveling the same number of miles in the opposite direction. However, airplane instrument panels didn't have odometers, so pilots had to do some guesswork about how fast they were going. Pilots also relied on handwritten messages dropped to the ground for communication. Some pilots removed radios from the planes to reduce weight. By the end of 1916, helmets with built-in microphones and earphones were designed to allow pilots to communicate during flight. So they did. He didn't mention having any kind of microphone where he was talking to ground control. I don't think there would have been ground control at this time. All right. Now it's time to groove. Let's dance, ladies and gentlemen.
But looking down, it was not at all as he remembered from the previous day. The airfield was no longer fenced. The grass was evenly cut, and there was no livestock in sight. It appeared the area around the hangars was paved with fresh tarmac, and the hangars themselves bore shiny roofs in good repair, brightly reflecting the sun. Goddard was unfamiliar with the bright blue uniforms he saw worn by the mechanics below. But he was more surprised to see more than one odd-looking airplane on the field, having but one pair of wings, rather than two. The monoplanes were all painted the same color in military fashion, although he had never known the Air Corps to paint their planes yellow. The men below did not look up, even though Goddard was flying only 50 feet over the roofs of their hangars. Then the sunshine disappeared, and his hawker heart flew back into the mist and dark rain.
So I'm trying to see what other kind of civilian airfields might have been around the area that he may have been seen, because there were a few RAF bases, airfields in Scotland. Let's see. Got this article, Reaching the Skies, the History of Scotland's Airports. Gotta accept their cookies. Come on now, enough with the pop-ups. Okay. There's literally nothing here. What are you selling me? Is it a video? Oh, I have to subscribe. I'm not doing that. Come on now. I just wanted to read an article. You can give me one article, National Scott. So there's RAF at Grangemouth. It opened Central Scotland Airport in 1939. That's way later than this. Edinburgh Airport, 1916. How far is Edinburgh from Drim? I guess I could bring this over here so you guys could watch. So you guys could watch what I'm doing. Okay, so I am we're here, right? So RFA former Drim in Scotland, and then we're looking for what was the first airport in Scotland. First airfield, Lanark, maybe? Let's see, directions. And we're gonna let's do Helensburgh, because that one's... Just seeing, oh, that's way on the other side of the country. Yeah, that's not gonna be it. Let's see, and we can look at they achieved the first powered flight in Scotland. Harold and Frank Barnwell from Stirling were Britain's answer to the Wright brothers. Okay, they're talking that they flew in Scotland in 1909. They achieved the first powered flight in Scotland. Lanark. that going to be on here? No, we're getting closer. And I think Abbottsinch. Let's see here. We're gonna see if just trying to find out if there are any airfields in the area. But everything I'm finding is across the country, so I'm saying that no, I don't think that he flew over the wrong airfield, because that's it for the World War I. Everything after that opens in World War II or later. There's Edinburgh Airport. Let's see, Edinburgh Airport hasn't always looked the way it does. We've been through some major milestones on the road to becoming the busiest commercial airport in Scotland. Here's the tour of the history. Our story starts back in 1916 when the Turnhouse Aerodrome opened as a World War I military base. Turnhouse Aerodrome. Ooh, that sounds interesting. Let's see where that is. I bet it's... It's not even close. Nope. All right, good. I like that. I like that. So we're confirming things. I don't mind being wrong and thinking, maybe there was another airfield nearby, and looking and being like, nope, I can't find one. That's fine by me. I love that, actually. Maybe there's a Scottish Area 51. What's this little peninsula called here? A little nubbin. The North Berwick, Haddington. All these little tiny towns. They don't seem like they'd have an airfield, especially not way back then. But then again, this is kind of, Anyway, let's get back to the video. I've distracted enough.
4 years later, the Drem airfield was rebuilt. It became a training school for UK military flyers. Blue overalls were issued as the new uniform for mechanics. And the new training aircraft, which had only one pair of wings, were all painted bright yellow.
So funny to think, like back in there was a time period where single-winged airplanes were like, whoa, that's futuristic. My great grandpa used to tell us about those times when we were kids, because he would love watching. He was born in 1901, but he would love watching like old back when the History Channel had history on it, because now they just play Ancient Aliens and crap. So, well, I shouldn't say crap, because that's my bread and butter, right? So, here in my eye. So, yeah, he used to love to tell us about, like, before, like, when certain technology came, and, like, the skepticism around it that people would have. Like, people didn't believe that, that horses would replace, or, like, that vehicles would replace, horses as the primary means of transportation. I mean, people had vehicles back then, but they were for rich people, and yeah, to putter about town like show-offs. Of course, in the U.S., that's it's all that we never moved past that stage, and everywhere else moved on to public transit. But nope, good old U.S. of A. sticking with the combustion engine, the privately owned combustion engines as the primary means of transportation.
All the details matched exactly the vision of the future afforded to Victor Goddard. This was confirmed by the report he filed 4 years earlier on his arrival at Andover.
Private Henry Johnson was born in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He later moved to New York. He joined the Army in 1917 as a teenager, and he was assigned to an all-black National Guard unit that would later become known as the 369th Infantry Regiment, also known as the Harlem Hellfighters.
Did we switch?
In a bitterly fought battle in May 1918, Johnson and one of his fellow soldiers were cut off and surrounded by a large German raiding party. Wounded by a shower of grenades thrown by the attacking Germans, Johnson's comrade was being dragged off by the Germans into captivity.
What are we watching?
Disregarding his own injuries, Private Johnson leapt up, smashed one of the Germans on the head with his rifle butt, drew a bolo knife, plunged it into the skull of a German and into the stomach of another. A hellfighter indeed. And then he threw grenades at the rest of the enemy until they withdrew.
I think that was his real voice, though. I think that's how he really sounds, like when he's not doing the whole thing. All right. So that was part one of today's Cryptic Corner. We got another part to it, though, but we're gonna look a little bit more into this and see what's going on. So this is from War History Online, the paranormal and out of this world experience of RAF Commander Victor Goddard. Those who participated in world wars saw and experienced things they could never have imagined. Victor Goddard, a member of the Royal Air Force who served England in both conflicts, saw more than most, and some of it couldn't be explained away by science. Here is the tale of the ghastly wartime experience. Victor Goddard grew up in Is this just recounting the story? I thought this was the debunking article. Hold on. Yeah, okay, that's just recapping all the stuff I just said about his experience. Let's see if there's more details included in this article from the sources, because it's got images and stuff that we didn't have before. I remember this from that book, this exact image with the people and him in the circle. Victor Goddard was commanding a squadron during World War I when an air mechanic named Freddie Jackson was killed at the HM Naval Seaplane Training School, later known as the HMS Daedalus. Jackson had walked into a rotating propeller and died from his injuries. On the day of Jackson's funeral, the crew of the Daedalus posed for the picture. When you look over, okay, yeah, this is he's connected to all this stuff. That's my thing. There's a certain at a certain point, there's a degree of woo one person can experience of like, oh my gosh, who's gifting subs out there? Regios, you scamp, 10 subs. We got Robin Webster on board. We got Robert Madewell. We got Ian Debunked. We got Jason Jacoby. We've got Calazia. We've got Mark Reed, Rick, Hunter Biden's laptop, Yahooligan, Avesta Freya, Ryan, John Hudson. Oh my gosh, you are awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, he was really old when he talked to us about it. I was born in 1983, so he lived with my grandparents from 1989 until he died in 1998, 99. So yeah, he was really old. But we would sit with him and talk about the old days. He loved explaining the way the world worked back then to us. It was kind of fun. Anyway, yeah. So this guy, but what I was saying, there's like levels. You know, you get roped into so many episodes of paranormal phenomenon. You start to become it's questionable whether you should be behind the wheel of a plane. Honestly, I mean, and I'm not not throwing shade. I'm just wanted to say, you know, if you're having a multiple incidences of paranormal activity surrounding you, might not be a good idea to get on that plane, especially in World War I when gremlins were just rampant and messing with the machinery. Let's read on. Okay, so he showed up for the funeral picture. Victor Goddard's next experience occurred in 1935. That's the one that we're talking about, the Drem Airfield incident in 1935. And then Goddard had another experience later in life. Yeah, this is why I wanted to bring this up, because it demonstrates that, this person had a lot of experiences, a lot of paranormal and supernatural experiences, and wrote a lot of books and sold books about his supernatural and paranormal experiences. So, later in life, Victor Goddard was at a party being held in his honor in Shanghai, China. While there, he overheard Gerald Gladstone, captain of the HMS Black Prince, telling other partygoers about a dream he'd recently had. In the dream, Goddard had died in a plane crash over the coast of Asia, the cause of which was atmospheric icing. The airman told Gladstone, "I'm not quite dead yet. What made you think I was?" Ironically enough, a flight Goddard took over Asia had many similarities to Gladstone's dream. He was in the air with 2 civilian men and 1 woman. The weather had turned bad and the aircraft had to make a crash landing on the Japanese island of Sado. I think that's how you pronounce that, Sado. Thankfully, all the passengers on board survived the crash. So he didn't die, so it's not like it was a prophetic dream, right? Here we go. The paranormal experiences never left Goddard. While he spent his later life in education, he still read and lectured about flying saucers. He also pushed Sir George Trevelyan, 4th Baronet, to create the Wrekin Trust, a group focused on spiritual education. Goddard also wrote books about the paranormal, including 1975's Flight Towards Reality, where he made the case for extrasensory perception. Yeah, so bottom line here that I want you to take away is this guy had a lot of experiences that he claimed were supernatural, and I'm not saying it was a grift, but yeah. All right, let's move on to the next video because we're going to be short on time. Which I'm kind of glad we started a little bit earlier. So this next channel we're going to look at, or the next video we're going to watch, is from this channel, Unknown Territory. We're giving them it's a new one for me, so we're going to give them a watch, and if they are good, we'll put them on the list, right, of things we like to watch. Because I do like devil monkeys. They're like one of my favorite. But the video I picked for this one is the time slip in Kersey. Go away,
A
Alina
woman
Haba.
goes on a nice Sunday drive and passes by her local church to find that it isn't looking so hot these days. As a matter of fact, it's crumbling to pieces as if it were hit by a bomb. She knew the church was fully intact, so she makes the nearest U-turn, only to find it's back to its usual condition. She was left baffled as to what she had just witnessed. A man and his son were walking around their historic home, and as they headed into the living room, there was a roaring fireplace, along with an old woman dressed for the 1600s using a spinning wheel, sitting not in Dad's recliner, but in an old rocking chair. She casually looked up and acknowledged the man and boy's presence without a word. In a blink, the room was back to normal, recliner and all.
I like this catchphrase. Those are words to live by, John Hudson. If you don't believe crystals can work, or if you don't believe that crystals can ward off evil, then you're not throwing them hard enough. Boom. Ka-chow. That would be fun, a alchemy-themed coffee company.
A young man was walking down his street to the corner store when his foot hit something, nearly sending him tumbling to the ground. He quickly caught himself, and while glancing downwards and back up, he finds himself suddenly transported to the 1950s. And when he looks away and back again, he was back to normal. These are but some examples of the time slip phenomena that have been occurring to people all around the world. The concept was first introduced in Mark Twain's A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court in 1889. It's even...
Yeah, that's kind of... And it's been retold and represented. Movies have been made with the concept. Martin Lawrence went back in time and was a knight in King Arthur's Court. I think the kid from The Sandlot went back in time and was in King Arthur's Court. I think that's it. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. Of course, other people have gone back in time too, or people from back in time have come up in time in fiction, works of fiction. But this is the root of it all.
Been invaded pop culture, from A Traveler in Time by Allison Utley to Back to the Future, in the recent time-mangling Netflix series Dark. And while intentional time travel is seemingly impossible, there are countless reports of ordinary people who have suddenly experienced a slip. Now, some of the slips, which take the experiencer back to the past and suddenly back to the present, usually confused about the whole affair, are rare, and some are very, very strange. One such time slip occurred to a group of young men in England, and it took them back to a small village and left a bizarre, unexplained mystery in its wake. It's October 1957 in Suffolk County. 3 British Royal Navy cadets, William Lang, Michael...
My dad was born in October of 1957, so you all are getting kind of a lot of my family lore this morning. We got to talk about my great-grandpa and my dad. Now, my great-grandpa was on my mom's side, by the way, not my dad's side. My dad's people don't live as long. My mom's side are like... They have like Numenorian blood, so they're like all really tall, like between 6'3" and I think the tallest one's 6'8", and they all live into their at least late 80s. I think he has a sister that lived to be 107, something like that, but. Yeah, they're Numenorian. If you don't know that, if Lord of the Rings lore, they have the same blood like Aragorn to be long lived. Ring explained it in the side chat, so I don't have to explain it on camera. And then my dad's side's more like they're more like the middlemen, the Bjornings or something. Yeah, I'd say they're more like the Bjornings.
Michael Crowley and Ray Baker were in the middle of a training exercise of map reading in the English countryside. Their objective was to follow a simple route through the area, observe several target locations, map a route to a waypoint, make notes of what they observed, and report back to their superiors upon completion.
See, it's kind of the same story as the last one. Some set off to do a reconnaissance thing, and
it was a nice sunny day. The men were on task, but enjoying the pleasant scenery as they went. But soon they were about to cross through an unseen threshold into the bizarre. Along their route, the men passed a small village named...
Keep in mind that it's 1957 and they keep calling these 15-year-old boys men. They're all 15. They're boys. These are children. I know that back then that they thought they could... that 15-year-olds could serve in the military, but no. Bad.
Kersey. It was a cozy little hamlet of only a few hundred people. and as the men observed it, it seemed like just another normal quiet day. Church bells rang out as smoke from the chimneys stretched towards the blue skies. Since Kersey was an assigned location along their route, they approached the village to observe it. But as they did, things allegedly got very weird. It began with the silence. The church bells were no longer ringing, the birds stopped singing, and even the sound of the wind seemed muted, as if a wall of silence had descended upon them. Everything seemed still, the leaves not stirring on the streets, the branches of the trees even paused.
I think we've all experienced this. It's what the word panic comes from. Let me see. Panic etymology. The word panic comes from the French word panique, which comes from the Greek paniko, which means pertaining to pan, because they would, the feeling that you get, there we go. The way we react to something simple here. Come on, give me just a simple description. Okay, the Greeks believed he often wandered peacefully through the woods playing his pipe, but when accidentally awakened from his noontime nap, he could give a great shout that caused flocks to stampede. Yeah. So you when you hit that silence, that silence, it's called that like when Pan was sleeping.
Everything seemingly frozen in time. Even some ducks in a nearby stream were standing motionless. And maybe even weirder still was that there was no one out walking about, despite it being a pleasant sunny day. Even the smoke from the chimneys had stopped smoking. Indeed, as they entered the village, it seemed entirely deserted. And as one of the cadets would say of the unsettling, eerie scene, it was a ghost village, so to speak. It was almost as if we had walked back in time. I experienced an overwhelming feeling of sadness and depression in Kersey.
Facts don't care about your feelings, though. I get that you're like, things went silent and it was eerie, and it can be that. It can be eerie and make you feel sad and depressed, and make you feel like make you feel like you're being watched.
But also a feeling of unfriendliness and unseen watchers, which sent shivers up one's back. I wondered if we knocked at a door to ask a question, who might have answered it. It doesn't bear thinking about. Things got even weirder once they began exploring.
They wouldn't have had buildings like this in Kersey back then. They wouldn't have had brick buildings.
Saw no cars, no phone wires, no bicycles. Even the road itself was now made of old beaten cobblestone. Now, there were quite the few older-looking homes, some almost medieval in Kersey, but the men could not see a single modern building around them at all. All of the houses looked hand-built and framed with timber, their window glass a greenish hue.
Hand-built and framed with timber, and shows like brickwork and masonry.
Covered in a film or grime of some kind. It wasn't just the town that seemed to change, but the entire season as well.
I think you have to pay tribute to the Flying Dutchman, Sumami.
When they observed the town from afar, it was clearly fall, changing leaves and dropping temperature. One cadet mentioned it was verdant, and the trees were that magnificent green color one finds in spring or early summer.
Oh yeah, we lost Carl Weathers yesterday. That's so sad. No more Apollo Creed. But, yeah, and he was also in Predator. Yeah, I like Predator better than Rocky, obviously, because I'm not into sports, but especially not contact sports. But I do like Predator.
The men decided to peer into one of the seemingly deserted buildings, and were surprised to see it was some form of butcher shop. One of the men had said about it, there were no tables or counters, just 2 or 3 whole oxen carcasses which had been skinned and in places were quite green with age. There was a green painted door and windows with smallish glass panes. one at the front and one at the side, rather dirty looking. I remember that as we three looked through that window in disbelief at the green and moldy green carcasses, the general feeling certainly was one of disbelief and unreality. Who would believe that in 1957 that the health authorities would allow such conditions? When they were done peering through the creepy butchers, they moved on to other houses.
There's a lot to be said about that, but I'm going to get to it in a bit when we get to the article.
But there was nothing in there, no furniture and no sign of life at all, as if they had suddenly been abandoned by residents who had taken all of their possessions with them. They must have left in such a hurry that the smoke from the chimneys that they had seen...
Honey, you gotta stop showing these brick buildings if you're gonna talk about colonial buildings. You could have got screenshots of colonial buildings.
also stopped. Then they went to search for the church they had heard, scanning above the abodes.
That's good. I like that. This actually looks like the village, right? Let me see.
Stopped. Then they went to search for...
I like that. St. Mary's Church in Kersey. Okay, and we get a good look at the township, right? They do have a lot of older style homes, but it does look like most of the stuff was built in the 19th century. These brick buildings are 19th century, maybe possibly built on foundations that are older, but this type of brickwork, because this is industrial brickwork, so post-industrial revolution for those. But some of these houses may actually be on foundations or even parts of the buildings themselves to be older, because you can see like this wall looks discolored a bit compared to this, so like this wall might be from an older structure. But I do think this village does look like very quaint and antique. And that church definitely looks antique. I feel like I'll step back in time walking through this place too.
For the church they had heard, scanning above the abodes for its tower, use as a landmark and then get their bearings. But it was nowhere in sight. The church simply disappeared as if into thin air, even if they saw it as clear as day from afar. Where had it gone? Where had everyone gone? At this point, the three...
So like you didn't understand perspective, because you can see like if I go out of town and look back at the town, I can see every church tower and every building that's over 5 stories. I can see from like if I can go across the river right to Missouri and look back and see all these church buildings, but I can't see any of them standing in town, right? I can't see like if I went out and looked and like stood in the middle of the street and looked in all directions, I wouldn't be able to see any of them unless they were within 3 or 4 blocks. Brick timbers are the way to go. Much more fire resistance. That's good thoughts, Ember. Thank you. Yeah, let me see. Did I miss anything else? That's what every part of the UK looks like except London itself. Yeah, older buildings built over, built on top, and or newer buildings built on top of older foundations and stuff. Yeah, and they have like really archaic measurements on their sizes and stuff.
3 men were feeling very unsettled and spooked. There was an ominous, vaguely menacing feeling of dread coming over them, and they decided to get out of there as quickly as possible. They had included in their report that after they left the village, everything suddenly went back to normal. The church bells rang out again. The chimneys were once again billowing with smoke. The landscape was painted in the oranges, reds, and yellows of fall, with the crisp air of October hitting their faces. The church tower was also once again there, towering over the surrounding buildings. In the
again, once they leave the township, right, then they can see the tower again. That's just perspective.
3 astonished cadets could not account for any of it. Although their superiors confirmed that they had reached Kersey, the stranger details of the account were brushed off at the time. Codes for its tower use as a landmark and then get their bearings.
St. Mary's Church. I'm just going to see when St. Mary's Church was built. St. Mary's Church, Kersey. All right, the oldest part of the church dates from the 12th century. A reconstruction of the church is thought to have started when the north aisle, which was joined to the nave by an arcade, and completed in 1335. Work then started on the tower, but was delayed by an outbreak of the Black Death in 1349. The tower was completed in 1481, and the north and south porch were then added. So this was quite a project that was undertaken to build this tower. I get ahead of myself. Let me see. Where were we? Like 7:45 or something like that. Here we go.
And the three astonished cadets could not account for any of it. Although their superiors confirmed that they had reached Kersey, the stranger details of the account were brushed off at the time, as they would just dance around in the back of the cadets' minds. It wouldn't be until years later that the case piqued the interest of paranormal researcher Andrew Mackenzie of the Society for Psychical Research when he received a letter from two of the cadets, Lang and Crowley. He met with the men who even took him to the village, back to where the bizarre story happened. The more he learned from the men, the more convinced he became of their story being true, that something very strange had happened to the men. One of the main things that impressed Mackenzie was that the account was very historically accurate. For instance, the building with the cow carcasses indeed had once been a butcher shop, although in 1957 it would have been a private residence. Other observations of the layout of the town also matched true historical records, which was information these cadets would not have likely known.
But they would have seen the church, right? If they went back to, because this is hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I just want to make sure that the outbreak of the Black Death is documented here as being after this church was built, because that's the claim they're going to make here in a second. No, not you. Not you either. You. There you go.
Mackenzie deduced that not only did they travel through a time slip, but also knew exactly what era they went to. He surmised that because the village had been mostly deserted and the tower was not visible to them, then it had to have been before the tower had been completed, and when the village had been ravaged by the Black Death. By his estimate, sometime in the early 1400s. He was so impressed.
So, again, the north aisle, which was joined to the nave by the arcade, was completed in 1335. The work on the work had started on the tower, but was delayed by the Black Death. So they should have been able to see the tower. It should have been started. I'm not sure. It says right here the tower was started at the time of the Black Death. So I don't know if that's conflicting to you guys, or maybe I'm just looking too much into it.
The case that he would include it in his 1997 book on time slips titled Adventures in Time. Of course, there have been skeptics of the cadet story, some pointing out period inaccuracies and other things that weren't quite right, such as the green glass windows, which would have been very expensive for all of the villagers of the...
I don't think that all the saints have to be straight, do they? There were probably some gay saints. Why would you want to keep the saints straight, Yimber? I doubt they were straight when they were alive.
The time to afford. Others examined the account of the butcher shop. It would have been very unlikely for a butcher shop to have so many cow carcasses, with meat being a luxury item, in such a small town. A butcher having that kind of stock would be a more common sight in a much larger town than what was known to exist there. In the end, there isn't a way to know exactly what happened to those men in the beautiful English countryside. Did they accidentally get transported to another time through a method that will most likely never be understood? Or is there a more down-to-earth, rational explanation? Sadly, the answers to those questions may never be found.
Well, we're definitely going to look into it, though.
Hey everybody, if you like what you heard, don't forget to leave.
No, I'm not going to show. I did promote your channel. That was a good presentation. Unknown Territory, covering the time slip in Kersey. Okay, so now we're going to read this article from the Smithsonian Magazine. When three British boys traveled to medieval England, or did they? In 1957, a 1957 time traveler recalls a feeling of unfriendliness and unseen watchers, which sent shivers up one's back. All right. So, Kersey in 1957. Although Jack Marriott's watercolor presents an idealized image of the village, it was commissioned for use in a railway advertising campaign. It does give an idea of just how old Kersey must have looked to strangers in the years it became central to the time slip case. Looking back at really strange things, the really strange thing with the silence, the way church bells stopped ringing and the little group of naval cadets near the village, the way even the ducks stood quiet and motionless by the shallow stream that ran across the road where the main street began. So there's a stream running across the main road. When the boys thought about it afterwards, they recall that the autumn bird songs faded as they neared the first house. The wind had dropped to nothing till not a leaf stirred as the trees they passed, and the trees appeared to cast no shadow. The street itself was quite deserted. Not so odd, perhaps, for a Sunday morning in 1957, especially in the rural heart of England. But even the remotest British hamlet displayed some signs of modernity by then. Cars parked by the roadside, phone wires strung along the road, aerials on the roof, and there was nothing of that sort in this village. In fact, the houses on the high street all looked ancient. They were ragged, hand-built, timber-framed, almost medieval in appearance, one of the boys thought. The three Royal Navy cadets walked up the nearest building and pressed their faces to its grimy window. They could see that it was some sort of butcher shop, but what they glimpsed on the interior was even more unsettling, as one of them recalled to author Andrew Mackenzie. There were no tables or counters, just 2 or 3 whole oxen carcasses, which had been skinned and in places were quite green with age. There was a green painted door and window with smallish glass panes, one at the front and one at the side, rather dirty looking. I remember that as we three looked through that window, in disbelief at the moldy green carcasses. I just said green twice. At the green and moldy green carcass. That's weird. The general feeling certainly was one of disbelief and unreality. Who would believe that in 1957 the health authorities would allow such conditions? They peered into another house. It too had greenish smeared windows, and it too appeared uninhabited. The walls had been crudely whitewashed, but the rooms were empty. The boys could see no possessions, no furniture, and they thought the rooms themselves appeared to be not of modern day quality. Spooked now, the cadets turned back and hurried out of the strange village. The track climbed a small hill, and they did not turn back until they reached the top. And then one of the 3 members, suddenly we could hear the bells once more and saw the smoke rising from chimneys, and none of the chimney was smoking when we were in the village. Again, this is the same issue, like you say, with the being able to see smoke rising from chimneys when you look at it when you're looking at a town from a distance, but not being able to see all the smoke rise from the chimneys when you're in the town. Perspective. None of the chimneys. Yeah, blah blah blah. We ran for a few hundred yards as if to shake off the weird feeling. What happened to those 3 boys on that October morning more than 50 years ago remains something of a mystery. They were taking part in a map reading exercise that ought to have been straightforward. The idea was to navigate to their way across 4 or 5 miles of countryside to a designated point, then return to base and report what they had seen, which, if all went as planned, should have been the picturesque Suffolk village of Kersey. But the more they thought about it, the more the cadets wondered whether something very strange had occurred to them. Years later, William Lang and the Scottish boy who led the group put it this way: it was a ghost village, so to speak. It was almost as if we had walked back in time. I experienced an overwhelming feeling of sadness and depression in Kersey, but also a feeling of unfriendliness and unseen watchers, which sends shivers up one's back. I wonder if we'd knocked at the door to ask a question, who might have answered it. It doesn't bear thinking about. Lang, who came from Perthshire in the Highlands of Scotland, was a stranger to this part of the east of England. So were his friends Michael Crowley from Worcestershire and Ray Baker, a Cockney. A Cockney? Is that just like a thing? Just a Cockney? I didn't know that. That was the point. All three were 15 years old, and they kept calling them men in that video. I don't know why. 15-year-old boys are not men. They might think they are. And had only recently signed up to join the Royal Navy. They made it easy for the petty officers in charge of their training to confirm that they had reached the village they were supposed to find just by checking their description. As it was, their superior, Lang recalled, were rather skeptical when they told them of the odd experience, but they laughed it off and agreed we'd seen Kersey all right. There, the matter rested until the late 1980s when Lang and Crowley, both by then living in Australia, talked by phone and chewed over the incident. Lang had always been troubled by it. Crowley, it emerged, did not remember it in as much detail as his old friend. But when they get together talking, they start building a narrative back up, right? But his old friend, but he didn't think that something strange had happened, and recalled the silence, the lack of aerials and street lights, and the bizarre butcher shop. That was enough to prompt Lang to write the author of a book he'd read, Andrew Mackenzie, a leading member of the Society of Psychical Research. Mackenzie was intrigued by Bill Lang's letter and recognized that it might describe a case of a retrocognition, the SPR term for what we would call a time slip case. Looking at the details, he thought it was possible that the three cadets had seen Kersey not as it was in 1957, but as it had been centuries earlier. A long correspondence, he and Lang exchanged letters for 2 years, and a foray into local libraries with the help of historians from Kersey helped to confirm that view. In 1990, Lang flew to England, and the two men walked through the village, reliving the experience. What makes the case particularly interesting is that retrocognition is probably the rarest reported of psychical phenomena. There have only ever been a handful of cases, of which by far the most famous remains the Versailles incident of 1901. And we can cover that at some time if you all want to. On that occasion, two highly educated British women, the principal and vice principal of St. Hugh's College in Oxford, were wandering through the grounds of the palace at Versailles outside Paris when they had a series of experiences that later convinced them they had seen the gardens as they were before the French Revolution. Detailed research suggested to them that one of the figures they encountered might have been Marie Antoinette, Louis the Eighth, is that the eighth wife, the Queen of France. Louis the 14th, is it? Yeah, Louis the 14th. Or 16th. 16th, yeah. XVI, 16th. Okay. My Roman numerals aren't great, guys. Sorry. Cockney is a real place. The accent gets the name from somewhere, I guess. Yeah, it's weird as it said that all the other ones, it said they were from here and from there, and then it said about him, he's a Cockney. It's like, what? Midnight is here. Shut the stream down. Oh, don't be mean. Still not as bad as being Welsh. Hides my Welsh half behind my Irish nose. I have an Irish nose too, sweetie. Where were we? McKenzie's research into the Kersey incident led him to very similar conclusions, and he featured it as a lead case in a book he'd published on retrocognition, Adventures in Time, in 1997. Several factors led him to conclude that the cadets' experience would have been genuine. The obvious sincerity of Lang and his friend Crowley, Ray Barker, who also traced but turned out to remember nothing of the experience, the details of their recollection, and a few persuasive discoveries. Among the details that impressed McKenzie most was the realization that the house that Lang had identified as a butcher shop, which was a private residence in 1957 and remained one when Kersey was revisited in 1990, dated to about 1350 and actually had been a butcher shop at least as early as 1790. So 1790, okay. So the tower would have been built by 1790. The author was also struck by the suggestive fact that the season seemed to change as the cadets entered the village. Inside Kersey, Lang recalled, it was verdant and the trees were that magnificent green color one finds in the spring or early summer. Then there was the puzzle of the village church. Lang noted that the party had not seen it after they descended into the village and the pall of silence fell. Indeed, he explicitly recalled that there was no sign of a church. I would certainly have seen it, as I had in the field observations of 360 degrees. And Crowley likely recalled no churches or no church or pub, all of which seemed hard to explain, since St. Mary's Kersey dates to the 14th century and is the principal landmark of the district. Readily visible to anybody passing along the main street, McKenzie, basing his case on the history of St. Mary's, interpreted this anomaly as evidence to help pinpoint the likely date on which Lang and his companions visited the village, noting that the construction of the tower was halted. Where did I lose my place? By the ravages of the Black Death in 1348 through 1349, which killed half the population of Kersey. McKenzie concluded that the cadets might have seen it as it had been in the aftermath of the plague, when the shell of the half-constructed church would have been hidden by trees. And since Lang and Crowley also recalled that the village buildings had glazed windows, a rarity in the Middle Ages, McKenzie further suggested the most likely date was 1420, when the church remained unfinished, but the village was growing rich from the wool trade. It is a great story, but looking at it through the eyes of a historian, is there some other explanation for the events of 1957? Here we go. It's time to debunk. Hold on. Let me see. Midnight up with the sun. Does he know it's 12 p.m. and not a.m.? Yeah, midnight usually doesn't catch my morning shows. It's midnight somewhere, Maya, possibly in the upside down land of drop bears. Spooky says, for those not in the know, Athena is also known as Midnight. Midnight, Pale AF, I assumed he burns in the shadows at noon, or is a vampire or whatever. All right, let's see. The Bell Inn, Kersey, dates to this is one of the places in the village. Dates from 1378 and is only one of a number of medieval buildings in the village. This is the photo from Robert Edwards, made available under CCL. Well, the first thing to say about Kersey is that it is exactly the sort of place that might have confused a group of strangers entering it for the first time. The village is certainly ancient. It was first mentioned in the Anglo-Saxon will of 900, that's 900 Common Era, so that's, over 1,000 years ago. It still boasts a large number of buildings dating from the medieval period. So many that it has become a favorite location for filmmakers and is noted by no less an authority than Nicholas Pevsner as the most picturesque village in South Suffolk. Among its attractions are the 14th century Bell Inn and several thatched half-timber buildings. It's not hard to imagine that these striking remnants might linger in the memory longer than the more humdrum architecture alongside them, producing over time the notion that that a witness had visited a place considerably older than expected. As it turns out, there's also good explanation for the cadets' failure to notice wires and aerials in Kersey. The village was not hooked up to the mains until the early 1950s. Then only after protest from Suffolk Preservation Society, which argued strenuously for preservation of its skyline. The revealing outcome of these protests may be found in the British parliamentary papers of the period, which reported that negotiations have resulted in the overhead line being carried behind the houses on either side of the street and the cables being laid underground at the only point where the street has to be crossed. What, though, of the other details? When I first read Mackenzie's account, I was worried by the mention of windows, since glass was expensive and thus rare in the 14th and 15th century. And while it is possible that Kersey's wealth did make an exception in this period, one wonders why. If it was wealthy, its houses would have been devoid of furniture. There are other problems with the dating too, not least the discrepancy between the boy's description of the settlement abandoned as it might have been in 1349 and Mackenzie's wealthy village of 1420. Yeah, that's the time stuff that I was talking about. The time frame doesn't really line up, right? Three teenage boys playing a prank. The village itself is probably pretty fucking cool, though. Yeah, I think it sounds pretty cool. These pictures look pretty cool. I love the aesthetic. I do too. In the U.S., people are like, our village was founded 150 years ago. But in the UK, it's more. Archaeologists say our village might be around 1,000, but who really knows? Especially when it's gloomy, little gloomy little medieval village. 400-year-old villages in the U.S. are built on top of 1,000-year-old indigenous villages. That's true. There are some townships. My town that I live in right now is built on top of an old village. There's still their burial grounds and stuff are still here. The Mound Builders Society that lived in the up and down the Mississippi, they had a village here. Where was I? Okay. What bothered me most about the cadet's account is something that Mackenzie never thought about. and that's the question of whether a medieval village would have had a butcher shop. Such places did exist, but they were found almost exclusively in towns. Meat was expensive, which meant that most peasants' diet remained largely vegetarian. And when animals were slaughtered in a village for saints' days, feasts perhaps, they were hard to keep fresh and would have been consumed immediately. Yes, meat consumption did rise steadily in the late 14th century from a tenth or less of the food budget to a quarter or a third of the total. But the evidence we have suggests that beef was only rarely eaten in the village of Sedgeford in nearby Norfolk. Only 3 cattle were slaughtered a year around this time. Sedgeford was only about half the size of Kersey, admittedly, but even so, it stretches credulity to imagine a shop with 2 or 3 whole ox carcasses in stock in the early 1420s, especially when it remembered that Kersey had its own weekly market where fresh meat would have been available and which would have provided fierce competition. What this suggests, I think, is that the cadets' experience is better explained some other way. Some key elements of the incident, the silence, the lack of life, are highly suggestive of derealization, a psychological condition in which the real world seems unreal, as was the Versailles case. Indeed, Mackenzie notes that when I quote Mr. Lang, Miss Moberly's description of the trees in the park at Versailles as being flat and lifeless, like a woodwork tapestry, he replied that this was spot on. And the lack of agreement between witnesses, remember that Roy Baker recalled nothing unusual about Kersey, is also striking. Of course, none of this solves the mystery of why 2 cadets, Lang and Crowley, were in such close agreement, but it's worth pointing out that there's reason why time slip cases usually have multiple witnesses. The passing of time and the process of mutual reinforcement, as the case is reviewed again and again, accentuates the odd and smoothed out differences, just as the study reports of Indian rope tricks. Yeah, we need to cover the Indian rope trick sometime as well. The strangest accounts were those said to have been witnessed longest ago. All right, so we had some fun time slip adventures. This Cryptic Corner ran long, but I knew it was going to, so that's okay. But I'm here for it. Time slips are always fun. If you know of any time slip cases that you want me to cover on the show, hit me up. I love covering this stuff. It's like one of my favorite topics. So drop it in the comment section, or drop it into the live chat if you're watching this on a premiere. But thank you for joining us for Cryptic Corner. Please remember to be kind, take care, and we'll see you next time. All right, as I always say at this time of the show, don't go anywhere. There's more life from the Hive to come. So you don't leave me. Don't leave. Don't go. Because we're going to be moving into some sci-fails today, and you're going to love this. Because I have a hate boner for alternative medicine, and we're going to be looking at some of that. So stick around.
Did the evolutionists just kill a pterodactyl? Or did they finally catch up to the creationists?
Obviously, there's not going to be a ton of talk about these things. And the thing is, I do believe there was talk about these things. I believe if we study history, the Confederates were able to shoot pterodactyls, back in the Civil War. And they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online. They spread these things out. And this is a historical fact. So, they spread this thing out, and it's got a huge wing length. And it's a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so, I don't believe that just because, at some point in time, coming from your perspective, that, just because they stopped talking about it means that they never saw it, when we have all this evidence that they've seen it.
Hello, my name is John Pendleton, and I'm speaking to you from Zacatecas, Mexico, center of Mexico. And today I'm going to tell you of my project to attract and capture a real living pterodactyl dinosaur.
But to the Christian, it makes common sense. Of course, there could be a few still alive. That's the first sighting I've heard of in Fort Worth, Texas. I've heard of them in Arizona. A friend of mine knows where some of them live, and he's going to go catch them and put them in a dinosaur adventure land he's going to build. And I can't reveal the details yet.
They're a form of what people call pterodactyl, but if you consider them descended from some type of rhamphorhynch or pterosaur.
Thank you, guys. Let's start it from the top. You guys are beautiful. I appreciate you. The service is working. All right, hello, and welcome to another episode of Sci-Fails. I am your host, Miss Bumblebee, and my headphones are slipping off. Eek. And today we are going to be looking into some alternative medicine, but not for people, for pets, because I've been enjoying doing. I did the windmill cancer video. I'm like, I really want to do another alternative medicine video, right? And I couldn't figure out what to do. I've talked to a few people. I actually have another big alternative medicine video on the back burner, but I'm consulting some people. I have lots of friends who work in the medical field. I'm doing like a expose thing. So I was actually thinking about doing it this week, but after talking to some of my friends about how I'm approaching it, I've decided I want to do a more holistic approach to it. So look forward to that in the coming weeks as well, because we will be cracking that open and exploring it. Now, today we're talking about holistic medicine, right? So I don't have a lot of problem with holistic medicine. It's generally taking care of the whole self, right? It's mental. It's especially because it goes a long way towards ending the stigma about mental health care. However, I don't accept spiritual. Hate boner made me think of the scene in John Dies at the end. But now I lost my train of thought because you said hate boner. So I don't believe in spiritual stuff, right? I don't generally. I don't think that unless you're using spiritual to mean the electrical pulses that we generate from our body are some type of spirit. Maybe, I don't know, but the idea that animals have spirits is something that's promoted by a lot of these nature paths, and woo types. Today we're going to be looking at one such person. This is the holistic animal health coach. Now, if she was just saying, like, giving us actual animal health information and talking about, like, animal behavior, ethology, is a whole study of the way animals behave and react to certain stimulus, right? There's tons of peer review, tons of peer review research on it. It's like one of my favorite topics. So, especially interspecific conflict between, or intraspecific conflict between two different species like hyenas and lions. I love looking into how these animals balance out their environment. But if she was just talking about that and maybe making some nutritional suggestions for pet care and proper grooming and time management with your pets and stuff like that, it'd be great. But that's not what she's doing here. First, I'm gonna let her introduce herself on her own intro video. It's only a minute and a half, but this will give you an idea of who we're talking to or who we're talking about. Oh, muted. Hold on.
I've been there myself. Okay. Who of you out there have ever worried or concerned about your pets for some reason? I know you're out there. I've been there myself. A little uneasy because something's not right and you've got no clue what it is and you don't know what to do about it. What I found with my intuitive skills is I'm able to connect with an animal, have a little chat and figure out exactly what it is they need. Hi,
She's going to have a chat with the animal. She's going to go full Dr. Doolittle.
Romy Bueller, the holistic animal health coach. Over the past 8 years or so, I've helped hundreds of people with their pets.
I'm going to have to put it in Ben Stein going, Bueller. Yeah, you know the scene.
From figuring out that elusive health issue, the strange behaviour that's appeared out of nowhere, and even helping find missing animals. I know the struggle.
See, that's my problem with psychics in general when they do stuff like that. Oh, I'm going to help you find your missing pet. I'm going to help you find your missing family member. I'm going to help you find your long lost birth parents. Things like that. It's gross. Don't do that to people. Stop it. Get help.
I've been there myself, but it doesn't have to be that way, and I'm here to help you understand exactly what it is that your animals need. I know you love them, and I know you're trying to help them. And I
chat with my animals too. I think that our animals pick up our mannerisms and tones of voices and stuff. And that's, dogs and cats can understand several words. Dogs, understand lots of commands. Cats can understand commands and can be taught to respond to commands too. Not as easily because they're in different character, but cats can do that. Yeah. Let's see. Keep your crystals away from my dog. Only Mr. Noodle responds. Is your cat named after Mr. Noodle from Elmo's World? La 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 la. Elmo's World. My kids watched Elmo, so I know Mr. Noodle. Mr. Noodle was also the guy doing the presentation on in the Vegas police convention in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. The guy was like, "What is a dope fiend?"
I can help you with that. If you'd like to learn more from me, maybe some tips or tricks or techniques, fill your name and email address in below and I will be in touch. I'm Romy Bueller, talking to animals because they can't always help themselves.
All right. So, first thing we're going to look at here, she's going to talk to some goldfish and goats. She's going to talk to goats. Before she even gets started, and I think me and her are both in agreement on this, do not keep goldfish or betas in a tiny bowl. Despite what the pet trade has tried to push on us for the last 80 years about these animals, they need more space than that, and goldfish at least are social.
Welcome to the chat box, everyone. I'm looking forward to this segment. We missed it in the last episode, so tonight we have two animals coming up for a chat. This week we are specifically talking to wild goats and goldfish. And this is where we're going to start. We're starting with the goldfish. And while I wasn't specifically asking for the goldfish that was trapped in a glass bowl, this is the goldfish that wanted to chat with us, which makes perfect sense as we get into it. Now, our viewer question was this: do they really have a 3-second memory? They didn't really see the purpose of asking that question actually, but they obliged with an answer. And this is what they said: call it whatever you like. We live by sense, and if you want to give that a label, then call it memory. It's of no relevance to us how you use your language.
So, wow, that's an articulate. Exactly, Tsunami, exactly. One beta fish needs 5 gallons minimum, and that's tiny. That's like if you have one beta fish with that, you're gonna need like minimal decorations and stuff in there, but you still need decorations because beta fish also need stuff to hide in because that's their natural behavior is to they do the back and forth out of their hiding spot kind of lifestyle. So, yeah.
I suggested that they may need to remember where to go for safety, and this is when I knew that I'd invited in the pet goldfish because the answer to that was no, we're in glass bowls, not oceans. I asked how they felt about that and was told in a very matter-of-fact...
Well, so some goldfish are in bowls, but yeah, there's a lot of places that do take good care of their goldfish. A nice goldfish pond is their optimal habitat. That's what's natural for them. Like a pond, a small pool or pond, or still area of a creek or river. There's a few places that I know of in the wild here where people have released goldfish into areas of the creek where it pools, right? There's goldfish in this bend in the creek because people dumped their pets in there. So it does happen, but 30-gallon tank is probably good for a good school of goldfish. You could probably keep half a dozen goldfish in that. Goldfish like to live in schools. They like to live in little clusters together. And beta like to live in a place where there's a grassy hiding spot. Because they live their whole life. They're pond livers too in nature, but they back into a little crevice or corner and make that their home under some shelter. They come out to eat or mate or attack, but they always pull back into their hiding spot.
And blunt manner, it is the slowest form of torture on the planet. Doesn't that make you feel good? Anyone out there have a goldfish on their kitchen bench or in their kid's bedroom?
Most people, I think that idea has like been kicked to the curb, right? We no longer generally encourage. There are still places where you can get a small goldfish bowl. And there are things you can keep in those bowls too. Don't throw out your goldfish bowl because they're perfect for some desert beetles. You just put a little bit of substrate in there, some rocks, and you could even put real plants in there and get some blue death feeding beetles. Put real plants in there, like cactuses or whatever, and put it near a window. Freaking beautiful little pet, and it's happy. It's happy in this little environment because they don't need too much. Hermit crabs are another critter that can be kept in a fairly small enclosure as long as you give it all the stuff that it needs, because they're not big travelers. But fish that live in a three-dimensional world, a lot of them need that extra space, right? They need, you have plants in a goldfish bowl. Yeah, it's cute when you do that. Especially you can layer the different layers of. I used to do because you do drainage rocks on the bottom, right? So I would do different colors, layered colors of aquarium rocks, and then put a layer of soil on top of that. That way you have good drainage too.
Nothing is meant to be held captive for your pleasure, particularly when we're mostly forgotten, unfed, and left to die. Plastic plants and colourful stones that give off what they called water fumes should not exist. We are not toys. We are not a child's pleasure or teaching tool to learn how to...
So, water fumes, and the plastic stuff that you put inside your vivariums and terrariums should be approved, right? But they shouldn't be releasing any kind of chemicals into your water. If you're running into that with the aquarium decor and stuff that you get, then you need to go to a more accredited, I guess, aquarium provider. You shouldn't be dealing with that from products that are supposed to pass inspection and be safe for your fish.
Care for something. We're often kept alone and without company, and that is another torture. We like being with other goldfish. The bowls are suffocating. We're often kept in the dark, and which causes problems with sight and a sensitivity when the lights go on and off. Now, when I communicate with an animal, I'll often be shown in my body how that feels for them. So with this, I felt an uncomfortable stinging sensation in my eyes that I couldn't shake off, and I couldn't get away from it. And this is how it feels for them. They also show me the water is too hot, and my entire body feels extremely hot, but particularly in my head, which is quite unbearable. It was a quick chat, and I finished off by asking them what they'd like us.
Yeah, don't get your decorations from like a craft store or something. I know they have some cool stuff at craft stores, but you cannot put those in with your pets. They're just not. They're not safe. They can be treated with chemicals or sprayed down with preserving agents that are dangerous to your pets, whether they're arthropods or they're a reptile or something like that, or they're fish. If you do collect stuff in the wild, you can do that. Just make sure you bake it. You can go out and get pretty rocks. You have a rock tumbler, for instance. You can make your own aquarium rocks. But just make sure you bake it to kill everything that's in it, and you give it a good rinse down with some distilled water. Anyway, I don't know why I'm giving you all like pet care tips you didn't ask for.
Humans to know, and I was very bluntly told that humans don't know how to look after us, so they shouldn't. We are not your trial and error. If you want to look at something pleasurable, go outside and look at a natural vista.
How the hell does a goldfish that lives its entire life in a bowl know what a natural vista looks like? These animals are quite articulate, but how do they know?
Couldn't agree more, actually. His parting words were, "We would rather die than live unethically in captivity." I would have to agree. Living in captivity or an unnatural environment for anyone would be a long and painful death. So jumping in...
I wouldn't keep any kind of fish in anything smaller than a 10-gallon tank. That's just my opinion. I know there are some species that they'll give you a 5-gallon limit on. You can keep fairy shrimp in a 5-gallon, right? Those are fun and beautiful and cute. But you won't. There's no fish like not any fish that I can think of that could thrive in a tank that small. I don't know what the minimum size for tetras are, but tetras do well in a 10-gallon tank. Goldfish do well in a 10-gallon tank. Angelfish do well in a 10-gallon tank, as long as they're not overcrowded. But like you could keep, one or two together. But as far as goldfish go, they actually, again, they prefer to be in ponds and things. But you can't keep them in an aquarium. The best way to keep goldfish is the way you see them in the pet shop, though. That is really the best way that they love to live, in the big swarming school. So a big 30-gallon tank full of a few dozen goldfish will be freaking awesome. Yeah, be careful with your shrimp with filter intakes. Another thing you can keep in small aquariums, I've done this before, I had recently actually, is a giant water bug. And you don't need any kind of pump or filtration system for them.
Into our goats now. Well, maybe not literally, but we're going to have a chat to them. I'm particularly talking wild goats and mountain goats and the tree goats. One of our viewers sent me an article a couple of weeks ago wondering how and why on earth these goats would want to wander so precariously on the edge of rock walls and cliff faces.
They're born for it. That's what their body has evolved to do. Goats are what happens to sheep when they live in a vertical world, right? Sheep, goats. Yeah, just goats can climb stuff that's the angles they can climb it up to. I think was it like a 94 degrees or something like that. They can climb like up walls that are slightly angled inward.
And the goats that eat the argan fruit in the tops of trees, which is just really bizarre. When I asked for a spokes goat to come through for a chat, they wanted to send me two, one for the mountain goats and one for the tree goats. So we'll split them up. Unlike the goldfish, the goats felt really caring towards our ignorance.
Yes, they like the salt licks on the walls. That is true. Mountain goats are scary AF. That is true.
The goldfish felt just a little bit more frustrated, I think. The goats think we are far too logical, particularly with what we think is right and wrong and normal or unusual. And this is what they had to say about wandering.
I kind of figured goats would be based. They'd be like, yeah, don't let other people tell you what's normal. Just be yourself. Yeah. So she's telling us goats are based, which sounds right because, they're goats.
Right on the edge of these cliff faces. This is all we have ever known, and it is very natural to us. This defies logic to you. You lack trust in things that don't make sense to you. We are purpose-built for this terrain. I asked them, are you looking for anything specific when you're skirting the rock edges? And I have seen videos many years ago of the...
Yeah, predators can't get them either, except for maybe cougars and snow leopards are both specialized to hunt in the same environment that these guys are specialized to live in. So there is a correlation there. One time when they can keep their fuzzy butts away from me if I'm trying to boot scoot my way across the Crocs. Yeah, so when I went to the Grand Canyon, right, and I had my kids with me, and the kids were small at the time. The kids were kind of running a couple of yards ahead. There were lots of people there, but the kids were running a few dozen yards ahead on the trail because, my partner at the time was disabled, so I had to move slower for her and did wanted the kids to run off their energy, though, so they ran ahead. This freaking ram, not a mountain goat, but a bighorn sheep, came down came down out of nowhere, off the vertical cliffs, just walked straight down into the trail between me and my kids, and decided it was going to set up camp there and just kind of hang out. And we knew that we weren't supposed to approach it, right? So we just had to kind of wait for it to finally get off the trail so we could move forward. But these trails were super narrow running down the trail that we were on. I can't remember what the name of it was off the top of my head, but it was super narrow in that area, and there was no way to get around it, and it just walked down the wall. It was crazy.
These goats, and they're licking the rocks, and to me I was assuming that was probably licking nutrients. So I was interested to hear what they had to say about that. So
yeah, minerals and salt. Mm-hmm.
I asked him, what are you doing when you're skirting the edges? And he says, yes, they're looking for the sweet spot. And they sniff that sweet spot out, and when they hit it, there's such a distinct smell, and it's warm and dense and salty. They also show me this in taste, where the regular wall tastes of not much, a bit dusty, sandy, but the sweet spot is super salty. I ask what these nutrients do to their body that they're licking off the wall, and I hear that it enriches their blood and it strengthens their heart. Now, to the question of...
Well, they need salt to... just their biology requires the minerals that they're getting from these salt licks. That's most artidactyls do have this this drive. Persidactyls do too. Horses and tapirs and stuff. They'll like a salt lick as well.
How they walk on the walls with what looks like little to no space or grip. I'm shown in a more physical way a sense of being drawn into the wall, like I'm leaning in, but I'm not really leaning in or on the wall as such. They're very balanced and steady. Their hooves grab onto the rocks like really strong fingers. Like in the center of their hoof, it's like they just kind of grip on.
So they walk on two fingers, okay? But they've been kind of fused together, and their fingernail has fused together in these two half circle teardrop shapes, right? And then on the inside of that, in the middle, is it's like your fingertip, a little thicker padding, but all around that teardrop shape is a sharp edge that hooks on to different places in the rock. It will find a grip if there is one to be found.
I asked them if they ever fall, to which they respond, of course, that is the true course of nature. Many of us fall, but the majority of us don't. I'm shown then a neurological disease that affects their eyesight.
See, Ring, I think that she watched a video about kids' video on goat zoology, and then made this video saying the goats told her that, when she actually got it from like Brightside or something.
And their judgment and their balance. Now, this is something that leaches from the rocks, and that it is very addictive. And to them, in small doses, it's fine, but in large doses, it can cause this problem. All par for the course, I feel. They seem really practical with what goes on for them. Now for the tree goats, which just messes with my logical head. I'll drop some photos here so you can see what I'm talking about.
It's because you don't think about these animals being arboreal, but they are. There's a lot of arboreal animals that you just don't generally think about. People will say orangutans are the largest arboreal animal, but I would question whether goats could contest them for that title, because at least these goats very much live their lives in trees, at least on par with a semi-arboreal animal like a black bear.
Talking about, but it's actually pretty cool. What I found out after I chatted with these tree goats was that they are getting into these trees for the argan trees, and they're getting into the trees for the fruit. Now I have a black and white kid goat with me, and he just bounces up this tree like it's nothing with pure ease, and it's the most natural thing in the world for them to do. They're so light. I ask how they stay up there, and again I'm shown the answer to this by way of feeling it myself. And I know that might be hard to get your head around, but if you can imagine yourself water skiing and the strength you might feel in your legs and your arms as you're trying to get out of the water, and then the lightness once you're up and that exhilaration, it's those feelings of strength and lightness and ease that you feel in your body. Not that water skiing is easy, mind you, but if you can imagine that, it's the same kind of thing. I'm just feeling that on behalf of an animal. With this, I'm basically the goat in the tree, and I feel this perfect balance and
You're the goat in the tree. She's calling herself the goat.
strength in both their hooves and their legs. They're locked onto those branches like a quad lock, if any of you know what that is. It's a super strong mounting system for your mobile phones that go on your bikes or your car or scooters. I asked them why they go up there, and their response is very short: why not? Then I asked them, isn't there food on the ground? Yes. Cute a few words here. And it's like, well, why not just eat that? It would be much easier. And he says to me, only to you. He's so unconcerned about it. And again, it just seems like the most natural thing for them to do. When I ask...
Well, actually, we're semi-arboreal too, so we like the tree. We climb the trees for the fruit too. We just don't do it as much anymore because we've industrialized ourselves. But we are a semi-arboreal species, so we definitely have as much climbing prowess as a goat. Maybe. Yeah. Not on a rock wall, but on a tree, in a tree.
The wild goat fraternity, if they have a message for us, the wild goats and the tree goats, they say, dream the impossible. Don't be led by logic. It'll get you nowhere.
Dreaming those big goat
Words
dreams.
today, don't you think? Now, if there was anything you wanted to ask an animal like this, let me know, and I will get the lowdown from them for you. That's the end of our show for tonight. As always, it's been a great pleasure to have you here. Please jump on and subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the bell so you get notified of new shows coming up, and follow all the pages, share it around.
Be the goat in the tree. Yeah. I feed my goat Adderall. So much fun to watch. Aw, don't do that. When life gives you lemons, interview them.
With your animal-loving family and friends, that would be...
Alright, we're going to watch one more real quick because she does the jaguar. The jaguar.
Feels like to be in motion in your body. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to be another animal? What it feels like to be in motion in your body? What you can smell, what they taste, what they hear? Maybe it's just me and the fact that I do this every day. But let me tell you this. Well, before I tell you that, let me tell you this other thing. Everybody can do this, including you. That's a whole other conversation.
You hear that, guys? We can all talk to animals. We're all Dr. Doolittles.
On how to, but you can, just know that. So just coming back to how that feels, there are really no words to articulate the feeling of becoming another animal and sensing from all of their senses. Like this guy who came to visit me in my walk the other day. Walking for me is a little bit like a meditation. It is a place where I can just still my mind because it's a very busy mind and it has trouble shutting down, but I can still my mind and just, you know, if I have questions that need answering, they usually come in then. It's also like a little portal for anyone and anything that wants to come and chat to me. And I was really not even thinking about animals, to be honest. And this cat, this black cat, came into my inner vision. And I actually knew...
Can you tell us more about this inner vision? Can you give us the more in depth as to what it is and how it works and how it's entailed? I know that you said we could all do it, so I want to be able to talk to the animals.
Knew that it was a black jaguar, but I thought to myself, oh, maybe this is just a regular domesticated black cat. And for some reason, because this is what my head does, I went off to think, what does it feel like for them to become invisible? And then it was just like I opened a door for the black jag to just share with me all sorts of really interesting things. Well, they were interesting to me. And if you're still here, maybe you might find these interesting too. So the first thing, you know, because animals can make themselves invisible really easily. We have an energy field. Everybody has an energy field. We can feel each other outside of ourselves. So, you know, you go into that boardroom or that meeting and there's just something really not quite right. There's someone in there that might be really angry or snarky or something like that, and you can feel it when you walk in the door. We're feeling each other's energy. The same thing for animals. So what I was getting shown with the black jaguar was their energy field comes right down about a foot off their body.
their energy field comes down about a foot off their body, so they have like extrasensory perception a foot around their body. And
if you don't know what a foot is, it's about 30 centimeters. So it's right down about a foot off their body, so quite low. It's really hard to describe some of these things, but it's really, really still. Not paralyzed, but just completely suspended in midair. But within that energy field, from the skin level to the edge of the energy field, it is supercharged. Like everything is really active in there and all the senses are pinging. What happened?
I wonder if she has a video about what the fox says, John. Yeah, she doesn't seem like she's like a I don't know. Like she's what I'm gathering, what I'm picking up is she does like a surface level research on the animal, and then her message is a conservation one, so I can't really fault that.
What happens though is that other animals or humans can't see them until they're basically on top of them. And it just reminded me of the stealth bomber. You don't hear them until they're over the top of you. Well, at least in Top Gun you don't. And so what would happen is an animal would come in and they wouldn't feel them until they're basically on top of them. When I ask them when they do this, it's often when they're resting. So I'm assuming that that is actually pretty much the same as how a domesticated cat makes themselves invisible. You know those times you go looking for Fritz and Fritz is nowhere to be seen. We've looked on top of the bookcase 15 times and Fritz is definitely not there. But on the 16th time, when Fritz is ready to be seen, there she is. You can see Fritz. So I thought that might be the...
I don't know if she thinks that cats really have some metaphysical ability to turn invisible. I don't think that checks out. But they do have good camouflage. Some cats, especially, again, the snow leopard's my favorite one to talk about great camouflage.
The end of our show and tell, but apparently not, because we had to look at paws, we had to look at whiskers, we had to look at the tail and all the sensors around the hair and all of those things. So we went off then to the paws. Now, what they showed me was this hot paw, which they're not always like that, but this scorching hot paw, which if it touched my face, it would sizzle. When this paw is on the ground, these 4 paws, and they're really hot, what I see from the center of the paw down into the earth, a foot or 2, is just this really strong connection, like they're locked in and it feels very magnetic. So, they're very heavy on the earth, but not heavy like they're fighting gravity. It's heavy like they are recharging, like you've plugged a battery into charge, and that's what they're doing. They're charging themselves up and they're also healing themselves because what I'm showing is the heart rate drops.
They're healing themselves. I'm just concerned if an animal is actually sick and she talks to them and gives people the wrong information on them. Yeah, that's a concern. Or, again, helping people find lost pets is awful, to grift people that have lost their animal. 90% of the time, my 2 black cats think they're hiding themselves. Half of their butt is sticking out from the blanket or box and everyone can see them, right? Yeah, they think they're being stealthy, but yeah. Or it's just like when you see them try to jump and they do a derpy jump instead and hit the wall. So cute.
The respiratory system starts to slow down, the nervous system calms down, the adrenal glands, they also relax. So when their feet are hot and they connect in, they are recharging. Now, when they're just kind of cruising around doing jaguar things, their feet are more body temperature and they're very, very light. Their entire body's very light.
This sounds like something we could actually do an experiment on. We could take the paw temperature of a jaguar at rest and a jaguar on the move and see which is hotter. I would speculate that the jaguar on the move would be hotter because it's the just second law of thermodynamics, right? The more you're moving and the more the machines are pumping, the more heat your body generates.
where when they are plugged in, their body is really, really not heavy, but strong. It's like, oh, I just feel so powerful.
No,
Like
she's
a
doing a
powerful
jaguar walk.
I just feel so powerful. Like a powerful jaguar. Oh, I just feel so powerful. Like a powerful jaguar. Oh, I just feel so powerful. Like a powerful jaguar. Hello, Mr. Jaguar. Mr. Jaguar. I could do a rap song here. Anyway, carry on. So that was very interesting. Now, I thought we'd finished, but show and tell was not finished. We went to the tail. And right at the end of their tail is like this bulb sort of thing. And it may not actually look like a bulb, but the end of the tail, you know, about this far down the end of the tail, is highly, highly sensitive. And so what I see with that, I see this tail kind of swishing and kind of moving. And I hear that they can...
Well, they have pheromone. They've released pheromones from that area too, so they weave their tail around to spread those. Would you want to watch it again? Do I need to do the jaguar thing again?
They can sense up to about 15 meters behind them and around their back end, which, you know, the back end, this is our base chakra there. It's the area of safety and survival. So they need to have eyes at the back of their butt, and it happens to be their tail in many ways. From there, I'm taken to the fur on their back, or really on their entire body.
We'll go back and do it again when we finish the video. We're about halfway done.
And when I feel that, when that is kind of working, and again, that kind of moves and it's looking around, it's like another set of eyes, or lots of eyes, but it feels really, really strong, and almost like if you pressed your hand on it, it would be like a porcupine spine. So it feels really stiff and sharp. Now,
so the jaguar has a spiny etheric spiny porcupine tail that detects stuff.
Tell again, it was still not over, because I'm walking and I'm trying to finish off, and I'm just trying to, watch the ocean and listen to the birds. But Black Jag was just not quite ready to finish off with his information. Excuse me. And this was interesting. We've gone to the whiskers. So we're just kind of having a look at all the senses, really. We were at the whiskers.
I think that, but in fairness, I think that's the way that that they say it in the UK and Australia and South Africa is jaguar. I know we say jaguar in the West, but like it's like jaguar or jaguar, like Jagwaur. That's how you kind of pronounce it, jaguar. But some people say jaguar. I'll say jaguar sometimes if I'm talking real fast, like Jagwire, but usually I say jaguar. Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I wanted to know what it was like to have them damaged or cut off, because I know there's some rather unsavory humans out there that cut the whiskers on their cats. And I can't even imagine it. But I was shown this by the jaguar, what it feels like. So these whiskers...
I was shown this by the jaguar. It has giant whiskers that bristle out from its face. I can talk like I'm not American. I don't know what accent this is. It's not her accent, but it's one that comes out when I try to talk. When I try to talk like this, I almost lost my voice.
I see them sort of fanning, like the tail. I see them fanning back and forth and kind of individually moving.
Evil people cut the whiskers off of cats. Who does that? I've accidentally cut my little doggie's whiskers one time. I felt bad about it, but it's not as bad for doggies as it is for kitties.
And they're all like little antennas, as are the tail and the fur. Like there's just little antennas going on all over the place. They were super, super charged. And when I see one of them cut, I just feel my entire strength disappear from my face, my head. I feel myself just melting into the ground. And then I see this big wave that goes down to the back end. So that then is the point of communication, and all the senses have to be hyper vigilant back there. Now, that is if all of the whiskers were taken out, say, but if I just have one whisker that is cut, I feel the same.
Some gurus claim they can feel hair being cut when they became enlightened, and why they stopped cutting their hair and beards. Really? I think I can feel my hair being cut. But I think it's like vibrating down the strand of the hair, right?
Same thing. Now they recover from that. It's like they've got to go and step away and just kind of regroup a little bit. But I see all of the whiskers kind of losing some of their power just with one going out. So if you took all of them off, if you pulled them out or you cut them off or they were damaged in some way, they would have no system to feel where they are and what's going on around them. So do not ever cut the whiskers off your cat, because actually
that's good advice in general. Never cut the whiskers off of any animal. It's not your. It's cruel. That's part of their sensory perception. That'd be like if say, hey, let me clamp your nose for a couple of weeks, because that's how long it's going to take for they to get their bearings back. Weeks to months. It's like, let me clamp off your nose so you can't smell. That's part of their sensory perception. Don't do that to them. Seals, don't ever do that to a seal. That's a death sentence to a seal. They use those to feel. Star-nosed moles. Mm-hmm.
Aside from the fact that I just feel like all of the systems shutting down in the body, it hurts. Yep. It may just look like a little bit of thick cotton, but it actually hurts when you cut them. It's a sharp, knife-like pain.
Also, whiskers do not look like cotton. So if you see a cat with whiskers look like cotton, it's probably stuck its face in something with cobwebs in it, and they're all stuck on its whiskers. Because, yeah, whiskers look more like a nylon guitar string to me.
That I sense when I'm sensing that. Now, here's something that fascinated me. When I was looking through the eyes at daytime, it wasn't crisp and sharp. Nighttime there was a lot more clarity. When I was hearing through the ears, very, very sharp. Now, here's the interesting thing. When I was sniffing through the nose, that was just it was such a powerful, powerful sense. But not only that, as I breathed in, I got an image in my jaguar.
If you could really do what she's claiming that she can do, I'd be going full superhero with it. You'd be seeing me out with my legion of animals that I speak to and commune with, that we go out and, I don't know, like help those in need, bring supplies to places where humans can't get to, like I could train animals to bring food to third world countries and stuff, like load up a whale with all of our excess produce and fly it to, or not fly it, like put it on, or you could fly it, you could get birds to carry it, something like that, to areas that are currently in need, especially areas in East Africa and in the Middle East, where they are still experiencing just the most wretched weather conditions. So that's what I would do if I had her powers, or what she's claiming she can do. Use it for something. Help some people. Help some animals too. Could get a whole freaking pod of like blue whales to just go around and round the North Pacific gyre till it's all compressed into a small, the tightest area that it can be compressed in. And then we can move it to Antarctica where it can freeze solid, and then we can deal with it that way. I could do all kinds of stuff with animal powers.
For like mind of what that smell connected to. So for example, if there was a man out there, whatever, far away, with a gun, poaching, and I sniffed and I smelt man with gun, that image of a man with a gun came into my mind at the same time.
Was it one of Donald Trump's sons?
That's amazing. The smell is connected to the vision. I loved it. So that's the black jaguar. Don't you love them? I don't know if you can see. You know, they have those rosettes like the regular jaguars do in that blackness. They're a beautiful animal. All right, my friends, that is our journey for today through our black jaguar. I hope you've enjoyed hearing what it feels like to be in this most amazing animal's body. If you liked what you heard and you want to hear some more, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, share it around with all of your friends, like and comment and all those types of things so we can be more seen. I will be back at you with some more animal love later on. Thanks for watching. I'm Romy Bueller, the Holistic Animal Health Coach, and I talk to animals because they can't always help themselves.
So now that I brought it up, I have to clarify about the Trump, the Trumpkins are just the worst. Just the absolute worst. If there's any doubt. Don Jr. and Eric Trump hunting endangered animals. Hunting, yeah, because they probably, the animals tagged and they have trackers on it and stuff. It's, yeah. So, that's not the whole one I wanted, though. Just a second here. Here we go. Check this crap out. They got the picture. Maybe they don't. No, the picture's been deleted. But they hunt lots of... That's the one. That's the picture I'm looking for right there. Why? What do you gain from doing that? African elephant. Cape buffalo. It's a greater kudu. Crocodile. Probably Nile crocodile. Can't be sure though. Is it an eland? Like a giant eland? The images were unaltered and accurately described, although they are not recent. In December 2015, the photos received broad media coverage at the time they were initially released, well before the start of Trump Sr.'s bid for the White House. On the 13th of March 2012, the website Gothamist published an article titled "Photos Donald Trump's Sons Awesome at Killing Elephants and Other Wildlife" said. And animal rights activists are revolted by a series of trophy photos that have emerged showing Eric and Donald Trump Jr. posing with a dead elephant, kudu, civet cat, water buck, while on a big game safari in Zimbabwe last year. In one photo, Donald Jr. proudly holds a dead elephant's tail. Don't be making me jump around. In one hand and a knife in the other. In another, the brothers are seen standing beside a 12.8 foot crocodile. So this crocodile is probably 60, 70 years old. Maybe more like 40 years old. But still, it's lived a long life. Crocodile hanging from a noose off a tree. Activists obtained the photos and created a video montage of Trump's big hunt. British tabloid, the Daily Mail, concurrently ran the photos in a piece titled, "I Have No Shame, I Hunt and Eat Game." Donald Trump's sons pictured posing with their trophy carcasses of big African hunt. You did not eat that leopard. You did not eat that crocodile. You did not eat that elephant. You didn't. You're a liar if you say you did. It cites the website Hunting Legend as a source for the photographs. In March 2012, Donald Trump Jr. sent several tweets that addressed the controversy. I assure you it was not wasteful. The villagers were so happy for the meat, which they didn't often get to eat. Very grateful. You're a smart guy. You can learn nothing from Bob Parson and GoDaddy. Which would be what? I'm not going to run and hide because the PETA crazies don't like me. You're killing endangered species, asshole. The Daily Mail quoted since deleted tweet published by Donald Trump Jr. in March 2012. Not a PR move. I didn't give the pics, but I have no shame about them either. I hunt and eat game. I am a hunter. I do not hide from that. He said in another critic on Twitter. I'm just this guy. Donald Trump Jr. reminds me of the Jarl of Farstead, the supplanted his uncle or whatever, and it's like I just hunt the best game and eat the most exotic dishes and whatnot. They just live a life of luxury and don't understand how normal people see them. In addition, additional sightings. Donald Trump Jr.'s hunting interest made headlines in December 2019 when ProPublica reports raised questions about a permit he received to shoot argali in Mongolia. The IUCN Red List considers the wild sheep near threatened as of 2008. So yeah, they're just trash people. That doesn't have anything to do with the topic. I don't even know why I went into that rant about it, but yeah. Anyway, so the cool thing about bears too is not yet. So that was our foray into more animal psychics for this morning, and a little bit of conservation topics because she got me in the mood to talk about it. So yeah, fuck the Trump people, and I did promise that I'd go back and do the Jaguar thing again, didn't I? Oh, so that was about, there we go.
Like a powerful Jaguar. Hello, Mr. Powerful. Not heavy, but strong. It's like, oh, I just feel so powerful. Like a powerful Jaguar. Hello, Mr. Jaguar. Mr. Jaguar. I could do a rap song here. Anyway, Mr. Jaguar. Mr. Jaguar. I could do a rap song here. Anyway,
don't rap. No.
So that was very interesting.
There we go. We'll have to clip that. The sassy Jaguar walk. Oh yeah. I'll make a rap song about it. About the like a Jaguar. Like a Jaguar. Hello, Mr. Jaguar. Yeah, we can do that. All right. So that was a fun little segment. We do have coming up next some more science stuff. But thank you so much for sticking with me and hanging out for some sci-fails and cryptic corner. We do have some eco news, and then we have some paleo peak. So stick around. I will be back with you momentarily. A cool thing about bears too is that the brown bears, under the umbrella of brown bears, is actually the polar bears. They're grouped within that clade because there are clades of brown bears that are closer related to polar bears than they are to other brown bears. Polar bears are just a subclade of brown bears that have adapted to live in the Arctic environment over generations, and they're actually, as the planet warms up a little bit, they're moving back inland and starting to interbreed back in with other brown bear populations. That's going to be the best for their genetic descendants for them to interact with and interbreed with these other populations of brown bears that aren't so adapted to this Arctic marine environment anymore. That's disappearing. All right, hello, and welcome to a fun episode of Hive Sci. We have a great topic lined up to you. This one was provided by the fantastic moderator, often known as Titan Uranus. Titan Uranus. I love saying that name. Tighten it. Tighten that anus. Just tighten it up. A little tight. Maybe tighten it up. All right. Anyway, they provided this document for me. So, here we go. This is insect flocking to artificial light may not know which way is up. New high-speed videos suggest efforts to keep their back to the light leads to erratic flight. A brimstone butterfly, Gonepteryx romney. Yeah, okay. Gonepteryx romney. Shown in multiple locations using motion capture, tries to keep its back towards a tube light as it orbits inside a laboratory at Imperial College London. This abnormal flight behavior around artificial light may make the insects lose their sense of direction. The insects flying in circles around your porch lights aren't captivated by the light. Instead, they may have lost track of which way is up. High-speed infrared camera data suggest. Moths and other insects naturally turn their back towards light. But when insects turn their back on artificial light sources, their sense of direction seems to go topsy-turvy. Researchers report January 30th in Nature Communication. The insects may lose track of where the ground is, leaving them flying in circles or diving towards the ground. The findings are the first satisfying answer to a long-standing phenomenon. Earlier I mixed up phenomena and phenomenon the other way around, so that's kind of funny. Of how moths and other insects flock to street lamps and flames, says evolutionary biologist Florian Altermatt at the University of Zurich, who was not involved with the study. It was also interesting to see that it was an actual rather simple explanation defying the previous more complex ones. Those hypotheses range from flying insects being blinded by light and becoming trapped, to insects interpreting light sources as a place to fly for quick escape. Another idea suggests that the light of the moon serves as a compass, and nocturnal insects mistakenly use human-made lights to navigate the world. These lights can be deadly to insects. Just as pilots flying planes have a myriad of tools to work out which way is up when they're gaining speed, flying insects may turn their back to the sky, as light, to keep their feet pointed towards the ground. It's a really good idea until someone invented the LED, says entomologist Samuel Fabian of Imperial College London, at which point it's a very bad idea. Fabian and colleagues used high-speed infrared cameras to track how artificial light affected the flight of a variety of insects at a field station in Costa Rica. The team watched as wild insects from 10 orders, including moths and flies, circled endlessly around hanging or standing lights. Others flew upwards in a steep climb, losing their speed until they couldn't fly any higher. When the light source pointed up, some individuals flipped over and headed for the ground. Let's see. Let's watch this real quick. It's only 41 seconds. See, they turn over. . Just trying to keep themselves lined up with the moonlight. Interesting. I think that's a caddisfly. I also like when they slow it down so you can see how their wing beats go. Yeah. During flight, the insects consistently kept light at their back, even if they ended up crashing. The same was true of moths and dragonflies observed in labs. The results didn't fit with any of the theories that had been proposed before, said co-author Yash Sandhi, an evolutionary biologist at Florida Museum of Natural History's McGuire Center for Lepidoptera and Biodiversity. The insects weren't flying towards the light as they would if it symbolized an escape route, nor were they flying in smooth spirals, which would suggest the light acted as a compass. Instead, it's a bit like somebody grabbed the pilot's joystick and pulling it in the wrong direction, Fabian said. Normally, flight was restored when the positioning of the sky-like artificial light was opposite the ground. Crash landings were common when the team illuminated a white sheet on the floor, but when the white sheet was stretched into a canopy above the floor, was bathed in diffused light like the sky would be, the insects flew through without getting trapped by the light. In the lab, there were some exceptions. Fruit flies, Drosophila species, which can fly in the dark, weren't strongly affected by the light. Yeah, considering their lifestyle, that makes sense. They, want to find fruit in the dark, not navigate by moonlight. They probably navigate by smell. Oleander hawk moths, Daphnis nereid, which are pollinators, could also fly over ultraviolet or LED lights without being thrown off course. In the wild, though, the moths still crashed. It's unclear why, Sandhi says, but one possibility is that the insects might sometimes suppress their response to light, or it could be something that individuals learn over time. While it is clear that artificial light can put insects on a crash course, more research is needed to confirm if it's happening, because insects use the skylight for navigation, irrespective of the presence of artificial light, says animal and visual ecologist Brett Seymour of the University of Texas at El Paso, who was not involved in the research. Seymour Sandhi, the other scientist, also teaming up to explore the other unanswered questions about light pollution effects on insects, such as how susceptible insects may be to different latitudes. Another question Seymour and colleagues were exploring is whether putting fixtures on lights so insects can't see much light at all could make street lights less attractive for flying insects. Now that we have the mechanism of how moths are flying to these lights, we can now better design light fixtures that will make it so they're not actually doing this behavior, Seymour says. All right, so that was insects flocking to artificial light may not know which way is up. Yeah, they think which way is up is the moonlight, so diffused light. Very interesting topic. Yeah, I will be right back with some more Hive Sci in just a moment. But thank you, everybody who tuned in for this little clip here. Be kind and take care. And I will see you in just a moment for our final segment of Paleo Peak for this afternoon now.
Yo, VIPs, let's wick it. stop, collaborate and listen. Ice is back with my brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly, flow like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the light. I glow to the extreme. I rock a mic like a vandal. Light up a stage and wax a trunk like a candle. Dance, bum rush, speaking that boom, killing your brain like a poisonous mushroom. Deathbed. When I play an old melody, anything less than the best is a felony. Love it or leave it. Better gateway, better hit bulls out the kid don't play. If there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the hook while DJ revolves it. Ice, ice, baby. Vanilla ice, ice, baby. Vanilla ice, ice, baby. Vanilla ice, ice, baby. Well, now that the party is jumping with the bass kicked in and the Vegas are pumping, quick to the point, no faking, cooking MCs like a pound of bacon, burning them, we're not quick and nimble, go crazy when I hear a cymbal, a hot top with a souped up gimbal, on a roll, time to go solo, rolling in my 5.0, rack top down when my hair can blow, girl is on standby, waving just to say hi, did you stop? No, I just drove by, kept on, pursuing to the next stop, busting left, headed in the next block was dead, yo, I continue to A1A, Beachfront Avenue, girls were hot wearing less than bikinis, rock man lovers driving Lamborghinis, jealous, cause I'm out getting my shade with a gauge of vanilla with a 9 ready for the jumps on the wall, jumps at the nail cause I'm full of 8-ball gunshots, ranged out like a bell, grabbed my 9, all I heard was shells falling on the concrete, real fast, guns in the car, stand on the gas, bumper to bumper, avenues packed, try to get away before the jackers jack, police on the scene, know what I mean, they passed me up and thrown it on the dope beat, if there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it, check out the hook while DJ revolves it, ice, ice, baby, vanilla ice, ice, baby, vanilla ice, ice, baby, vanilla ice, ice, baby. Well, take it cause I'm a lyrical poet. Miami's on the scene in case you didn't know it. My town created all the bass sound enough to shake and kick holes in the ground. My style's like a chemical spill. Feasible rhymes, you can vision and feel. Conducted and formed is a hell of a concept. We make it hype. You wanna step with this? Shape plays on the fade, slice like a ninja, cut like a razor blade. So fast, other beats say, damn, if a rhyme was a drug, I'd sell it by the gram. Keep a composure when it's time to get loose. Man, it dies by the mic while I kick my juice. If there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the hook while TV revolves it. Ice, ice, baby. Vanilla ice, ice, baby. Vanilla ice, ice, baby.
All right. Hello, hello, my beauties and bees. Welcome to Paleo Peak. We got an exciting discovery that I overlooked in covering it on this show in October when this discovery happened. So I'm making up for it today because it came up when I see Aunt Jer mentioned Grayson's stream the other night. This came up in Grayson's stream that I had failed as a science communicator who loves animals and has an affinity for penguins to properly report on the mega penguin. These are the largest penguins to have ever lived. No penguin alive today could compare with some of the extinct giants that once roamed the planet, including Kumimanu fordesi, Petra diteps, Stonehousey, and Paleo duites. I think that P is silent there. Paleo duites, Klikankowski. Yeah, those are some names, but there was a resounding demand for penguin content on that stream, so I'm like, oh my gosh, next time I do a stream, I better have some penguin content ready. So we had our penguin lead into this. If there's a problem, I'll solve it. Yeah, that was the problem, and we solved it by covering this just right now. Penguin power. All right. Penguins come in all shapes and sizes, from the fairy penguin, Edaptula minor, which stands just over 30 centimeters. That's 1 foot tall. To the 1 meter high emperor penguin, Aptenodytes. That's how you say that. Aptenodytes. Was that one up here like that too? Yeah. No? That's not Dites, is it? It almost looks like that should be Dites, and is that a typo with the P in there? So Paleodites Klinkakowski. You know I always try with these names. That's part of the fun of doing this show. Which stands just over 30 centimeters. Okay, where were we? But even the biggest emperor penguin alive today would be dwarfed by the mega penguins that roamed Earth millions of years ago. Here are the most impressive of these ancient giants. Kuimamu fordyce, the title of the largest penguin ever documented, goes to the species Kumimanu fordyce, which was first described in February 2023. Daniel Sepka at the Bruce Museum of Connecticut and his colleagues unearthed the unusually huge flipper bone of a penguin in southern New Zealand in 2018. The big humerus was shocking to me, he says. I almost thought it was maybe some other animal. The team quickly determined that this belonged to a new species of penguin that lived in what is now New Zealand over 55 million years ago. New Zealand's been isolated that long. 55 million years ago. The sheer size of the bone suggests that the bird probably weighed between 148 and 160 kilograms and stood around 1.6 meters tall. Someone wants to convert that to American for me in the side chat. That'd be cool. The emperor penguin just looks like a child next to it, says Sepska. Yeah, I did 148 kilograms. I have a hard time with converting that. With the meters, it's not so bad. Because a meter is pretty close to a yard, which is, you know. Anyway, the species was named after paleontologist, excuse me, Ewan Fordyce. Okay, does that make sense? Who made his own mega penguin discovery in 1970. So, yeah. That's our mega penguin. Here's an illustration of what it may have looked like. As you can see, the ancient penguins had longer, more shorebird-like beaks, like a seagull or like a gull or a pelican. When you look at the ancient penguins. Are there more penguin articles? Look at all these penguin stuff down here. Extremely rare black penguin spotted in Antarctica. How you can help with penguin research by browsing images at home. Yeah, there's lots of cool articles here. So, what do you think? What's your favorite species of penguin? Extant or extinct? Tell me in the comments down below. If you enjoy the content and what we're doing here in the Hive, please consider subscribing, hitting the like button, maybe even sharing some of the videos around. Like if you're a penguin aficionado, you could clip this and share it to your penguin loving friends. Just whatever you can do to help spread the word about the Hive. I really do enjoy doing this and enjoy having this little slice of community to share this stuff with. I like the science. I like the debunking pseudoscience. I like the challenge of looking things up. I like the chances of being wrong about stuff. So stick with me. Continue along with me on my journey to try to find the truths about reality. Please remember to be kind and take care. We will see you next time. Love from the Hive.